And we actually have some bikes moving in on Futurama's Harvesters over in the north. That's going to be extremely unfortunate. More and more body blocks over here by Fate Zero, trying to protect his Titans, trying to keep them along the south. The AA is going to be important. That will win this fight. Welcome to Kane's Wrath. I'm your host, Korak, and today's map is Forgotten Dunes. Welcome back to the grand finals of the July-August 1.03 League with a prize pool of 200. This is the revenge match. Starting us off on the left-hand side of the map, wearing the purple and the green robes, sporting the Reaper 17 and Scrin gloves, we have Wildcom, joined today by Pennywise. Back from the lower bracket on the top right-hand side of the map, wearing the red and the cyan robes, sporting the steel talons and the GI gloves, we have Fate Zero, joined today by Futurama. All fighters ready? Begin. Contrary to popular belief, I am back. I was buried in bureaucracy and lots and lots of paperwork. In the real world, I am currently setting up a business, and for anyone who's done that, it is a massive pain in the butt. But back to the match, Korak. This is what we're here for. A small item of note to consider, even though the match right before this featured the same players, Futurama and Fate Zero actually fought their way through the lower bracket and are back up here to fight in the grand finals for that $200 prize pool. This is their second attempt to take on the powerhouse that has been Wildcom and Pennywise. Everybody so far has started off with a small amount of standard scouting, nothing major just yet, nothing real sneaky. We don't have any nod forces doing anything bonkers just quite yet, just a couple of GDI players being a little bit cheeky and a little bit annoying. We have actually seen this Scrin set up with the Scrin and Reaper 17 from Wildcom and Pennywise. I believe this is something they have obviously practiced at this point, hoping to complement each other. We actually have a Seeker Take over here getting some small little bit hits on these Harvesters, actually getting a Lightning Spike down over here, maybe able to get a Harvester right off the bat. That would be super great, but I'm sure the Seeker Take is actually going to get pushed out by the tanks. There it is, there's the Watchtowers. No Harvesters are taken down over here on the bottom right, and the Lightning Tower is short to follow on its own. Some small amount of engagements over in the top left-hand corner, but nothing major to deal with. Nothing like the Lightning Spike, nothing like the Seeker Take inside those bases. Even though they did not get anything, they at the very least did delay the Harvester from harvesting just a little bit. All of the natural expansions for each respective teams are developing rather quite nicely. We are transitioning into the the early middle part of the game, where we're getting, it looks like Seekers and Gunwalkers. I have been out of the game for too long. Gunwalkers and a handful of Predator tanks from the GDI, as well as Steel Talons pulling out their Titans early on. Too bad they did not continue that push or get a little bit of scouting, because they could have actually pushed into their base. That is Fate Zero and Futurama. It doesn't look like the forces are quite here yet for the Scrin boys on the left for the moment. Good boy Gunwalkers does manage to get a kill. He is half HP. If he's not careful, he is gonna get taken out. And actually, one of the Gunwalkers does get a pretty good scout on the Steel Talons faction. It looks like Fate Zero is not paying quite enough attention to what's going on over there. And actually, one of these Harvesters may get taken down here rather quickly. There it goes. It gets destroyed as these air units go in and make their way in and start doing all kinds of damage advantage. There are plenty of AA here in order to take them out, and I think they're going to get destroyed rather quickly, and I'm not sure they were able to get any kills other than that one harvester. I was unable to catch anything other than that. We do have the Steel Talon slingshots, and we had a good number of AA, so I'm assuming they saw that coming. They got a little bit of scouting off right before that engagement had started. GDI just being a pest over here, keeping an eye on the forces of green, keeping an eye on the forces of Pennywise, noticing all of these Devourer tanks. It looks like we do actually have, I missed it, we actually have tripods with shields. He got that up much quicker. That's why we weren't seeing any units from him early on, while words are hard. Holy crap, I am seriously out of practice. Why we weren't seeing any units from WildCom. I swear I'm not having a stroke. Tripod is going to get a step on one of these pit bulls and take out a couple of them, but the pit bulls so far are uncontested, moving their way into the screen space, poking on a couple of those harvesters. They probably should finish their engagement on that harvester, but they have elected not to. They've pushed the harvester out of the field and decided to ignore it as much as they can. Devourer tanks are turning their way around, as well as the tripods moving in to start picking on these pit bulls. One pit bull does finally get taken down, and their days are numbered. There are too many tripods here for them to run away, and they are absolutely cornered and gonna get taken out right there. The scouting for the left-hand side of the faction has been very, very strong. Pennywise and WildCom doing a very, very good job keeping the scouting with those buzzer squads. Those buzzer squads are very, very quick and able to get a good amount with it. We actually have a couple of growth simulators as well, boosting the economy of the left-hand side faction. And actually, we missed a little bit of a mana tank getting taken out over here. It looks like Green was able to get a quick snack on one of the mana tanks. Futurama was just a little bit out of position. That is an expensive mistake. Not a game-ending mistake, but an expensive mistake. If he does not match Pennywise, though, if he does not match Green over here, he is going to have a little bit of an issue. The sprint forces are developing quite nicely, and we're getting our first major engagement of the fight. Devourer tank after Devourer tank getting absolutely destroyed over here. The shield for the planetary assault carrier and actually one tripod get taken out rather quickly. These AA are proving their worth in weight. They are, oh my god, I swear I am not having a stroke. Air units continue to take it down as a fight has actually begun over in the north as well. There's a stasis field down, and WildCom is beginning to crush the forces of the Steel Talon, but there is an EP to follow it up. One click after one click could change this fight, and I think the favor is in the Steel Talon's favor. Pretty soon here, these tripods are going to be outnumbered when that stasis field ends, and there it goes. They are going to get outnumbered, and there it is, a secondary stasis field on top of the forces of Steel Talon. Steel Talons just cannot catch a break. One click after one click, dominating the forces of Fate Zero. Fate Zero not looking in a great spot. He's about to have a whole bunch of tripods on his base. Meanwhile, Pennywise is moving into the south and wrapping up the forces of Futurama. Futurama is starting to collapse as well, and things are not looking super great for the right-hand side faction. They are just getting crushed on both sides, unfortunately for them, but very fortunately for them. And there's the GG for Futurama, giving everything to Fate Zero, soon to quickly follow by Fate Zero and Futurama calling in the GG. Once again, I swear I'm not smelling burnt toast, but I am having difficulties in my first match coming back. That does, however, give the win to Pennywise and to WildCom. I'll see you in match number 2, Commander. Welcome back, Commander. We are in match number 2 on the map Pandora. This match is sponsored by Non-Secret Labs, where mistakes aren't accidents, they're research. The left-hand side is populated this time around by Fate Zero and Futurama, sticking to their pink and cyan, sticking to Steel Talons in GDI. Man, I am smelling a lot of burnt toast today. And over in the bottom right-hand side, we have WildCom still in the purple. Pennywise has switched to the yellow. WildCom is going to be playing the GDI, while it looks like we're going to get a Reaper 17 from Pennywise on this map. Starting off already with a small... Nope, actually that wasn't harassment. That was an attack move that I was seeing over here, but we did get the forces of the GDI getting taken out. There it is, the buzzer squads. They get absolutely taken out. If those rifleman squad can see the buzzers in time, they can actually do a good job of taking them out, which is what we saw down there on the bottom. Looks like Fate Zero Pink did a good job on munching on those as quickly as he could, getting a hold of that choke point, which is also going to be good. And Futurama just barely able to grab the small little scouting choke point over here, doing a little bit of a victory dance over there. I didn't know they could do that. I didn't even know they did that at all. But he was rather happy to make it through that. Futurama winning another small engagement. This scouting will be rather important. It won't be game ending, but it'll definitely be helpful. It doesn't look like anyone's going to do anything real sneaky. Usually, like I said before, Nod is the sneaky faction. Not that the other factions can't do anything else. Reaper 17 can do some rather cheeky stuff, but nothing real crazy. Everybody has moved into their natural expansions rather nicely. It looks like the faction on the bottom right, Roundcom and Pennywise, has started their expansion just a little bit quicker. Nothing really to write home about. We get our first set of pit bulls over here. I believe these are purples. Yep, these are Roundcom's pit bulls. Moving into the center of the map. There is only 2 of them. Typically, you need 4 of them if you're going to go harvester hunting, so they're probably just going to do a little bit of scouting, but Roundcom has been known to prove me wrong just to make me look like an idiot before, so this wouldn't be the first time. Usually he pulls off something really cheeky, but actually we get a small little bit of engagement between Pitbull versus Pitbull. Nothing major. It looks like they were trying to go support the lightning spike, but were unable to get any purchase. We did see that last time. And actually, one thing we did miss is a bit of damage on Fate Zero's. It looks like on Fate Zero's base over here, he has nothing to defend against Yellow, nothing to defense against Pennywise. It looks like he is finally going to get some sort of defense out here in a moment, but nothing major yet. That is going to put them behind because there are already 2 refineries over on the right-hand side of the map, over on the respective natural expansion. We are getting some Titans moving their way in to push out the secret tanks. It is something that he needs, but not having this these refineries set up yet is going to bite him in the butt. He needs to get that going. Some pitbulls for Roundcom are going to get taken out over on the right. I believe they were just looking for a little bit of scouting, and they're going to lose their lives for it. The left-hand side faction, Fate Zero and Futurama, aren't looking real hot in this early section of the game. Let's see if they can turn it around. We do actually get an air tower over here by Futurama. I don't believe anyone's pinged it just quite yet. I did see a ping there, but I missed who it was from. We are finally getting some refineries over here by Fate Zero on there, but the lead has got to be here for Wildcom. Rockcom has been on top of that resource rather quickly, but maybe Fate Zero spent a good chunk of time rushing into something else. We're getting a whole bunch of Devourer tanks moving their way into the base of their opponent, moving in their way into the base of Fate Zero, but I believe Fate Zero is ready for it. He has set up some blockage with the Tiberium silos, and he's moving these Titans forward, as well as we actually have some Orcas over here for some air support for Futurama. Between all of this body blocking and all of these Orcas, that's going to be able to do a good chunk of damage to these Devourers, but however, they get reinforcements just as quickly as they go down. Orca goes back for its refuel, replaced by another one just as quickly, and it's going to be able to get some free shots on these Devourer tanks. That is good. Those are the gains that they need. Taking out more and more of those Devourer tanks will help them out later in the game. It looks like we have a couple of tripods now for the yellow, for Pennywise, as Ralcom begins to continue and build up his forces. He is looking a little bit anemic compared to Futurama on this side, so that could be the potential linchpin if Futurama can pull one over on Ralcom. That does appear to be the case. However, Futurama is finally starting to build up some forces. However, he's still outnumbered against Pennywise over here in the bottom. There is the body block from the Tiberium silo, and more Orcas are going to start moving their way in. However, there are a lot of Shardwalkers here to push them out. Titans moving forward, getting that buff. And pushing them out. I don't believe anyone got down. No, one Devourer tank did get taken out, but other than that, not much was lost. more and more body blocks over here by Fate Zero, trying to protect his Titans, trying to keep them alive, picking on these Shard Walkers, and there are the shields for Pennywise. Pennywise is proving to be a powerhouse in this match. Orca's not being microed quite efficiently by Futurama over here. Mammoth Tank's moving in, starting to do some damage, and Mammoth Tank's moving in for Futurama as well, pushing out the forces of Pennywise over here in the south. But now Raukon has decided to move his way in. However, I'm not sure he has the forces to start this engagement. He's starting a little bit of a pincer move, trying to split up his opponent, and it does seem to be working, but I'm not sure even then he has the forces to do what he wants to do. I don't believe Futurama has spent any attention on the forces over here in the south of this fight over here. It looks like he's mostly ignoring them. However, here are the Orcas start mopping up some of the kills, as well as the Mana Tanks beginning to push their way into his natural expansion, pushing Raukon out. Engagement slowing down a little bit as it picks up in the south, and it looks like a couple more forces of Pennywise, and it looks like the name of the game for the left-hand side of the faction is to continue these picking maneuvers off, and that is going to be super good for them if they can get those off. We're getting a major engagement over here in the south. It looks like Face Zero is going to get a little bit outnumbered. He does manage to take out another tripod rather quickly, but he loses a lot of forces for it. That's not going to be great for him. Raukon moves into the north and gets picked off by these Orcas. These Orcas are doing a fantastic job, and they do not have an answer for it except for Pennywise over here with his Shard Walkers. Things are looking rather grim for Fate Zero over on this side of the map. There's a lot of tripods on his front doorstep, and he does not seem to have the answer for it. There is a Mammoth Tank that comes out and dies just as quickly as it was spawned. Pennywise is looking very, very powerful in the south, with no one really to stop him for the moment. There are only a couple of these Shard Walkers, so if Futurama can send his forces down, if he can send his Orcas, if they're still alive, down to the south, that would be super, super helpful. But he has his own problems to deal with, and that is Raukon knocking on his front doorstep. Fate Zero is losing infrastructure after infrastructure. He's losing so much over here in the south. He's about to lose his refinery, and there it is. There's a GG. He has thrown in the towel and given his forces to Futurama. Will Futurama back out, or will he decide to stay in the fight and do what he can? He's going to lose a lot of infrastructure over here in the south. Everything that was left over by Fate Zero is going to be a little bit tainted. It's going to be a little bit destroyed by Pennywise. Pennywise so far is uncontested in the south, and it doesn't look like Futurama has the forces to fight Raukon over here in the north. However, there's only 4 Mana Tanks there, and there it is. There is the GG, giving another point to Raukon and Pennywise. They are proving so far to be the champions in this match to begin with. Let's see if they can turn it around in match number 3. I'll see you there, Commander. Oh, I didn't see you there, Commander. Well, since you're here, we're now in match 3 on the map. Battle Stadium. Over in the left-hand side of the map, we have Pennywise switching to red and going with Skren. We have Raukon just south of him, sticking to the purple, and it looks like he is sticking. We are moving to GDI this time around. Our right-hand side faction is Fate Zero in the pink. Fate Zero has elected to switch to Zocom, hoping to get some air units in this match, which would be quite nice to see. Futurama is moving to his Skren faction. I do know for sure that I have seen Futurama pull off some very, very good wins on this map, both this version and the single-player version. I forget what the single-player version of Battle Stadium is called. Probably something similar to Stadium as it was before, but I do not remember, unless I'm just completely getting it wrong and there's not a 1v1 version of Battle Stadium. You can let me know down in the comments. Let me know everything I did wrong. You could just put everything, and I'll start the whole video over. Okay, goodbye. I'm kidding. I'm not gonna re-record this because I'm lazy. Looks like we have our Tiberium spikes have already been nabbed by all of their respective players. Fate Zero putting a little bit of a pillbox over on the blue Tiberium, keeping a good eye on that. That is a good thing to watch out for sure. Battle Stadium is one of those weirder maps for me because the Tiberium looks rather tiny in a couple of the spots, and at least on the mini-map it looks rather anemic, but maybe it's just been a while since I have A, played the game, and B, casted. So maybe that's the normal size, and I am just being strange. I am kind of curious when we're going to get an airfield for the Zocom players. I guess they don't necessarily have to go air, but, you know, the same can be said about Steel Talons. You don't have to build Titans as Steel Talons, but probably should. It looks like the scouting forces of Ralcom get taken out over here by Futurama. The Skrin forces taking some snacks. Good boy Gunwalker getting some early kills before he unfortunately gets crushed, and the scouting is continuing over here in the north inside of Pennywise space. Pennywise is pinging that Futurama is moving into Ralcom space. There are watchtowers here, but they are going to be able to push out these harvesters. That's going to be critical early on, be able to move all of these seeker tanks in and starting to take out some of these harvesters. And the most important thing is these harvesters are not harvesting. If Futurama can get some kills or continue to delay them, that'll be super great for him. It looks like they've switched to the harvester over here, and they're starting to begin their assault. And there is a harvester with almost full Tiberium about to go down, while those other three have been absolutely pushed out. Watchtowers get sold off, but the Gunwalkers are going to be able to take out what they can. I think the forces for Ralcom are going to be able to start doing what they can do best with these Predator tanks, and that is crushing their opponents. However, that is going to be some delayed reinforcements or delayed resources for Ralcom. He lost a full set of blue Tiberium, which is not super great for him, and he had 3 harvesters delayed. That's not a small amount. These little critical mistakes like that are going to be something to capitalize on for these players in these higher skilled matches. Pennywise being aggressive with his base push, moving into the natural expansion of Fate Zero, starting to pick on his opponent as quickly as he can, but Futurama is here to support him with these Devourer tanks, starting to poke on Ralcom. Ralcom is actually looking a little bit like the underdog this time around, which is not normally like him. He's been a little bit on the back foot, not being able to deal with the forces of both of his opponents, and here we go. The forces of Pennywise are going to start getting picked off. Ralcom needs to move in and support Pennywise. Pennywise cannot lose these forces. He needs to hold on to them as quick as he can, but they do back out in time. There are the forces of Ralcom that begin to move in. I think it's too little too late, but it looks like these Devourer tanks are going to be doing a firing retreat. One is probably going to go down here any moment, taken down by the Predator tanks of his opponents, and Ralcom has decided to move into pincer Fate Zero. I expect to see these Devourer tanks coming their way back, and there they are. They've started to pick on the forces of their opponents, start taking out these rocket squads and doing more and more damage, and this is an absolute siege on Fate Zero's base. Pennywise is here to stay, and he is setting up on his front porch. Fate Zero needs to delodge Pennywise in order to get anything done. He is in a rather precarious position, but he has not crumbled just yet. He is holding on to the pressure, and Futurama has been here for the support. The Devourer tanks have been phenomenal in the defense with their backing off here and there. It looks like what will probably be pretty useful is a good chunk of man spam from Fate Zero, but I do not know how those do against Devourer tanks. Getting another small engagement over here. The majority of the forces of Ralcom are actually going to start getting obliterated. These Devourer tanks are just doing so much work on both sides of the map. Pennywise is able to get a good chunk, but not quite as many as Fate Zero. Fate Zero doing a phenomenal job. Here are these Zonecom Orcas starting to take out the Devourer tanks of their opponent. There is the Plasma Missile Battery, and it looks like Fate Zero is going to be, I'm sorry, not Fate Zero, Futurama is going to be the powerhouse right now. He is just doing so much damage to Ralcom, so much damage to everyone, and he might almost single-handedly be able to push this way out. Not that Fate Zero has been doing nothing, but Futurama has been on his A-game in this fight. It looks like Skrin was the call to go with. Zocom Orcas are doing a good chunk of work on their own, but Fate Zero is not able to get them out in any significant number just quite yet. These photon cannons should be focusing on the plasma missile batteries if at all possible, but they're going to hit what they can. I think they're going to hit the forces, they're going to hit the Devourer tanks of their opponents. Maybe Futurama is more worried about those Devourer tanks. We do get a good chunk of Gunwalkers starting to move in to support these Devourer tanks, and these Devourer tanks just are not met with. Ralcom loses forces after forces selling off of 2 barracks and is going to start this engagement here any second, whether he wants to or not. There is a 1-click on top of the warp sphere of his opponent, and Futurama is going to move more and more, pushing his opponent back more and more. If they're not careful, they're going to lose this drone platform here any moment. It's already pretty close to half HP. Futurama is just absolutely dominating this match. He cannot be stopped. I say that as soon as he starts to back off, because he wants to make me a liar. However, he is still the powerhouse in this match, almost fighting single-handedly. Once again, not that Fate Zero has been doing nothing. It's just that the contributions for Futurama have been super, super great, both in the early game and now. Devourer Tank does finally get taken down, and there it is. There's the man spam and the Shatterers. It looks like we did get an answer. We did get Fate Zero with a decent amount of forces. That does seem to be what he needs to get pushed out. If he can set up something to support these Devourer Tanks, they can get a good win. And it looks like Pennywise is officially de-lodged from Fate Zero's base. Fate Zero getting a little bit of upgrade, and actually there is the GG. Both Pennywise and Railcom have decided to throw in the towel. It looks like the defense for Fate Zero and the aggression by Futurama was just too much for them to deal with, and decided to throw in the towel and try their luck better in match number 4. Speaking of match 4, I'll see you there. Welcome, Commander, to the map Ice Arena. Our score is 2-1 in Railcom and Pennywise's favor. However, Futurama and Fate Zero were managed to win. They did manage to win that last round. Let's see if they can keep it up in this 4th match. Over in the top left-hand corner, we have Railcom sticking with his purple, moving to Scrin this time around, and we have a Reaper 17 from the orange Pennywise. In the bottom right-hand corner, we have Fate Zero sticking to his pink, going with, looks like Steel Talons, and his opponent, or his ally, I should say, it looks like has moved to Reaper 17. Futurama sticking with the Cyan and going with Reaper 17 instead of his Scrin like he did last round. I gotta imagine that his opponents are gonna have some sort of answer to deal with the Devourer tanks that they had such a hard time to deal with from Futurama, so it'll be interesting to see how this part plays out. Natural expansions are moving their way to their perspective expansions. The drone ships, and wow, I am very, very out of practice. The drone ships and their respective MCVs are moving to the natural expansions. It actually looks like Fate Zero and Futurama are just a little bit behind that curve. I'm not sure if that'll make a massive difference, but it will have some sort of impact early on. However, they could have refineries already queued up and ready to go, which would put them on par with their opponents, because their opponents have already moved over here. They still have not started to harvest those perspective areas just quite yet. A little bit of scouting over here by Fate Zero. Good boy Gunwalker gonna get his first snack for the day. Railcom is going to get a little bit of a kill on those scouting forces. Seeker tanks are out over here for Pennywise, moving his way in. And actually, I think the Scrin factions look rather nice in orange. I don't get to see that too much. Fate Zero moving into the center of the map, starting to do some more poking around, starting to look at these blue Tiberium. He's going to see the Seeker tanks of Pennywise making their way south. That's going to be important if he's going to protect his Harvester here. He does have a couple of watchtowers ready to go, and actually Railcom is doubling up, and they're going to be going for Fate Zero early on. They're going to be moving into this expansion. There is the ping from Fate Zero, letting Futurama know there is the first Titan and 2 watchtowers also moving their way in. However, Futurama is not going to be able to harvest because of all of this damage. Futurama's coming to help with 1 Shard Walker, 2 Shard Walkers, and a Seeker tank, moving quickly to move over here. And oh my god, Fate Zero's gonna lose this Harvester. It has such little HP. He just was not able to micro it in time, and there it goes, a full Tiberium load for Fate Zero. That has got to sting. That's got to hurt, especially early on. That's gonna be extremely unfortunate. Looks like this lightning spike is going to continue to pick on another one of the Harvesters, and if Fate Zero's not careful, he's going to lose his second Harvester any moment here. Nope, he does manage to get it out, but he also manages to push it out over there. We actually get a little bit of some air units, an airfield over here by Railcom. 2 actual grab stabilizers, which are the air platform, to make the air units for that perspective faction for them. That is going to be something to deal with. I'm not sure whose ping that was, if that was Rowcom pinging to Pennywise that he has built those, or if they were able to, the right hand side faction was able to get a scout off and see that. Seeing those, it looks like, yep, we're getting Storm Riders, and seeing those Storm Riders coming is going to be rather important. I believe it was, I can't remember if it was Bike Rush or if it was Master Leaf, that was saying that you need to get a good number of these Storm Riders out in order to do any significant damage, or in order for it to be worth it to deal this damage. However, we did see a good number of Storm Riders doing a good chunk of damage. There is the ping. Fate Zero is letting his opponent know that they are coming in with Storm Riders. They're going to have some anti-air ready to go, and it doesn't look like they have too much. And actually, I missed an assault over here by Pennywise. Pennywise moving over here. However, he is getting sandwiched between the forces of his opponent. There is the first set of AA. However, they are not in the right position. They are not protecting the harvesters, and there it goes. One harvester is taken down, but it looks like they are going to take it down at the cost of a good chunk of their lives, because the slingshots over here are here for Fate Zero. We also have a couple of Mechapeds by Futurama. We're getting some Mechapeds and some shielded Shardwalkers moving their way into Pennywise's base. Pennywise is not normally the one that gets to see the aggression early on, but he is going to get to see it this time. Storm Column is going to be worth its weight in gold in this fight, and if these tripods are not careful, they're going to get taken out by the Mechapeds. That would be extremely unfortunate. There is the one click just barely saving that tripod, but one Mechapede does go down, I believe. I don't believe that was all the units, and Pennywise does try to sandwich these Mechapeds, but he's going to lose the units. Unfortunately, they weren't quick enough, and Futurama was just absolutely on top of it. He managed to escape relatively unscathed and did a good chunk of damage to his opponents. There are the pings by Pennywise letting Rowcom know that those Mechapeds are about to be on his front doorstep. And speaking of, here they are. We did get Tripod with a shield just in time. However, it's not going to matter too much. This is a lot of Mechapeds to deal with. Not one shield's going to be able to do enough for it. We do have a whole bunch of planetary assault carriers. However, it looks like these Mechapeds have the anti-air solution. There is a Storm Column. There is a Tripod. Futurama needs to Vominos on out of here. He is going to lose these Mechapeds if not. It looks like one of these Mechapede heads just barely manages to make it out. They do, however, make their way back to the forces of Fate Zero. Fate Zero looking a little bit better this time around, and it looks like the forces of Pennywise are going to start moving into Futurama's base, hoping that his forces have not regrouped just as of yet. And that does appear to be the case. If Pennywise moves quickly, he can probably move into Futurama's base and do a good chunk of damage. Not that there's no defenses over here, but this is a lot of tripods to deal with. Futurama does have his shields, but actually the forces of Pennywise may actually get sandwiched over here between all of these Mechapeds and these other tripods, as well as we're getting to see some Ravener action over here, which is always exciting too, as well as some Shock Troopers. I always forget what these guys are called. Maybe they're just called Shock Troopers. I can't click on them to save my life. They are literally called Shock Troopers. One click over here saving more of the tripods of Pennywise, doing a very good job saving a good chunk of his forces. Looks like he was able to get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of the tripods with that one click. That's going to be super great. We're getting an engagement over here on the south. The AA is going to be important. That will win this fight over here. We do get a one click down on the base and down on a couple of the forces of Futurama. Futurama is starting to fall apart over here. Unfortunately, losing these mana tanks will be extremely unfortunate. He needs to kill as many of these tripods as he can, and he also needs to kill all of his Aryans. There's a good chunk to deal with. Here's Futurama once again to the save, moving his way in, starting to do some supporting of his own, helping out his ally. Futurama's been all over the map. There is the one click catching a whole bunch of these slingshots and a good chunk of the forces of their opponents, and things aren't looking good for Futurama and Fate Zero. It looks like Pennywise and Rowcom might get another win. If they can crush all of these forces, they can do a lot. However, this is a lot of slingshots against all of the Aryans of Rowcom. Rowcom is starting to crumble a little bit, and the hold might actually be here for Futurama and Fate Zero. It's still hard to tell. The Fat Lady has not sung just quite yet, but she is getting close. Tripod after tripod is getting taken down, and somehow Futurama and Fate Zero will manage to hold this just barely. These slingshots, these mass slingshots are doing a good chunk of damage. Fate Zero definitely pulling his weight this time around, doing very, very well into these forces. Ralcom is actually looking to be a little bit weaker this time around, which, like I've said before, is rather abnormal for him. Fate Zero doing a good job, and Futurama doing an amazing job being all over the map. Pennywise keeping up the aggression, and the coordination from the left-hand side of the faction has been on point, but the defense has been even stronger for the right-hand side faction. There goes one mana takedown in the north, dying rather unceremoniously. One tripod probably gonna get taken out here rather quickly. There it is. Pennywise managing to get some good hits off without losing too many units, actually losing any units at all. Unless he lost some of these Ravagers. It's hard to keep track of the Ravagers. Maybe I missed it. And actually, we got a one-click on top of Ralcom's drone ship in order to save it from all of these slingshots. That probably is the call, backing it out. And these one-clicks have been super phenomenal from both factions. Obviously, the one-clicks for the GDI faction for Fate Zero can't be super great compared to Skrin. The Skrin one-clicks are just really powerful. Looks like one Harvester went the wrong direction, pulled into the wrong neighborhood, and absolutely got, as well as one of his friends over here in the center. It looks like Fate Zero was kind of trying to grab some of that blue Tiberium, which is all, which is very important at this stage of the map. Most of the Tiberium is gone whatsoever, so the forces that we see now, for the most part, are going to be the forces that are on this map. Every small engagement is going to start to matter. This is basically turned into a smaller map resource-wise, and it's going to make a difference. Shock Troops actually doing a really good job taking out these drones from the drone carrier. I didn't realize they were that good at taking them out. I'm not sure if that's an upgrade. I really don't know too much about the Skrin factions. I need to play them more to figure out what does what, but the Shock Troopers do seem to be doing a good chunk, and that seems to be what Futurama is going for. And actually, we're going to get a change of aggression. Futurama and Fate Zero are going to try to move into the base of Pennywise. They're going to start moving their way in and starting to coordinate. We're actually getting our first set of Wolverines supported by all of these Mammoth tanks. The majority of the forces are here. Whoever wins this engagement, especially if they go all in, is going to win the match. So far, things are in the left-hand side faction's favor, but they are getting pushed out and they are getting picked on rather quickly. These tripods are going to prove to be rather important. He who controls the tripod controls Arrakis. Oops, wrong game. A whole bunch of these Mammoth tanks. Two of these Mammoth tanks are actually going to get eaten over here by the forces of Ralcom. That's going to be extremely unfortunate. That's a heavy unit, unfortunately, to lose for the right-hand side faction. Everybody is still posturing and gearing up for this particular assault. Ralcom has so many Shock Troopers, but they do get pushed out by the Wolverines just as quickly as they move in. There is the body block for the Tiberium silo. I'm not sure they have the resources to continue doing those body block. Everybody's got to be absolutely anemic, and Futurama might actually lose his drone carrier. There it goes. He has lost his ability to produce deals, but he can still produce units, and they can still win this fight. And there is an amazing one-click followed by another amazing one-click, almost taking out all of those tripods, but then saving them just in the same breath with that disruption field, or not the disruption field, maybe it is the disruption field. I can't remember the name of one-clicks right now. The engagement is continuing over here as Tripod begins to fight Tripod and taking out each other. I think the linchpin is going to be these Mammoth tanks, and as soon as I say that, they get Stasis Field rather quickly. Another Stasis Field in the north, taking down the slingshots of Fate Zero. However, I'm not sure how much good the slingshots are going to do. There's not a crazy amount of area units. I think there's only 2 Devastator warships, which can do a good chunk of damage, but I think this is all but one. I believe the right-hand side faction just has too many forces and too much aggression. There's not much left for their opponent, and there it is. There is the GG. I believe someone threw in the towel, and the game bugged out just a little bit. That does give another point to Fate Zero and Futurama. Fate Zero going mano-a-mano against their opponents in this revenge match. I will see you in match number 5, Commander. Can you smell it, Commander? That is the smell of Forgotten Forest. Or maybe me. It's 5 a.m. and I need a shower. Over in the top left-hand corner, we have Ralcom in the purple and Pennywise in the blue. They have moved to Reaper 17 and Skren for their respective faction. And over on the top right-hand side of the map, we have Fate Zero still in the pink. And looks like Futurama still in the cyan. They've gone with Zocom and Skren this time around. In the previous match, the match that was that tied up this current one, bringing our score to 2-2. Fate Zero and Futurama just did a phenomenal job on their defense, did a phenomenal job on their coordination. Their opponents were doing amazing too, but it looks like the favor was definitely in Fate Zero and Futurama's area that time. It was definitely on their side that go around. Forgotten Forest will be one of those maps that only has one set of blue Tiberium for the players to fight over, and then a large set of green Tiberium that is already developed in the center of the map, as well as this like tilde. That's basically what that. I mean, I guess they call it Lake Tilde. That's what I would call it. I don't know, but I'm lame. So we're getting a little bit of scouting over here by Ralcom. Ralcom moving into the base of Futurama, getting a little bit of scouts. He's poking around, seeing what he can see. Followed up shortly by Fate Zero moving into the base of Pennywise and his opponents, starting to see what is going on. Seeker Tank's gonna start taking some pot shots at these GDI units. There is a ping over here by Fate Zero, letting his ally Futurama know that he got a decent scout off, and they can see what they can see. Natural expansions have already started to develop for both factions, for both forces, both the left force and the right force. Over here, we actually get a little bit of a buzzer hype early on, as well as a quick sell-off. I believe that only gives you one buzzer squad when you get that, so I think Futurama is just trying to get a small little bit of scouting out while he begins to build up his forces. Looks like the alien factions do seem to be the way to go for that, but Fate Zero is sticking to his Zocom, is sticking to his GDI sub-faction. Seeker Tank is going to see the Buzzer Squads moving into his base and decide not to bother. He's going to camp out at the Blue Tiberium. Not a bad call for them to do. These Zocom Harvesters have the rockets on them, and they're going to be able to shoot what they can, but absolutely they're going to be cross-eyed and not hit a single one of these Buzzers. I mean, I get it, the Buzzers are tiny and fast, but still, like, they're just not great. Sometimes I wonder why they even have the rockets. It looks like Pennywise has developed a couple of Shard Walkers. That seems to be his early game. We're getting a couple of Seeker Tanks over here moving into the Blue Tiberium area in the southern section of the map. Futurama making sure that he's going to try to control that, and that can prove to be rather beneficial, especially if he can get a Harvester over here like he is doing to grab what he can. And we actually already have a good chunk of forces by Fate Zero with already their Tiberium field suit upgrades. So it looks like he might go just a little bit heavy on the infantry front. He does double back a little bit just to gain a little bit of formation, at least a little bit of a better formation as they move their way into their opponent's base. And they back out just as quickly as they see it. Maybe if they go pick on that Tiberium spike. No, Fate Zero's decided to split up his forces a little bit here to spread them out just a little bit as he moves his way in. He does see the forces of Pennywise and decides to nope his way out of there. It looks like, Ralcom. It's Ralcom versus Fate Zero. And actually, things may actually be looking up for Fate Zero over here. He's able to get a couple of good kills, but if he sticks around here too long, he's going to start getting picked off. There are Shard Walkers, there are Buzzer Squads, and there are a good chunk of Devourer Tanks. All good things to deal with their opponent. We got a little bit of engagement over here on Futurama's base, and I think, nope, it wasn't a Harvester, it was a Seeker Tank. He did lose one. However, I don't know if he has the forces to commit to this fight just quite yet, but maybe he's trying to grab one of these Harvester kills as quickly as he can, or push his opponent out from harvesting. That does appear to be the goal. Looks like Fate Zero is continuing his aggression with these snipers, with these rockets, and actually, instead of the men defending the vehicles, it looks like the vehicles are defending the men this time around. It looks like they are investing their way in this man span, expecting the damage from that. Couple of tripods over here by Pennywise, and they do have their shields up. That's going to be tough to deal with. I think the favorite looks like is in Pennywise's favor, depending on the micro and macro of both of these. One of these tripods getting killed early on would not be good for Futurama. He needs to... Nope, there he goes. Unfortunately, that tripod gets taken out almost for free, I don't believe, and there goes the husk just as quickly. Pennywise doing a very good job on that. And actually, we have a couple of shock troops. Ralcom has managed to sneak some forces into their opponent's base. There's a lightning spike to follow it. That's going to be extremely unfortunate to deal with for Futurama, because he's going to lose Harvester after Harvester to all of these units. There are the Buzzer Squad's going to start doing that, but the problem is going to be also dealing with this lightning spike, as well as this stasis field on top of all of the forces of Futurama. It looks like they're going to double down on Futurama and do all the damage that they can. There are a couple of air units over here, Futurama, that is going to be able to help, but however, he did lose a good chunk of harvesters. That's going to be unfortunate for Futurama, and this whole time he's not going to be able to harvest all of this. He's pinging to let his opponents know he probably needs some help. There is another one click. He just cannot catch a break. As soon as one stasis field ends, another one pops right back up. I say that as soon as that stasis field ends, they manage to get a couple of kills on their way out, taking a couple of devour tanks. That's going to be good for them. Every little bit is going to count in this fight. However, Futurama is got to be hurting from all of that. Fate Zero continuing to assault on Ralcom as Ralcom holds the defense. Ralcom has been very... No! That is extremely unfortunate. It looks like the majority of the forces of Fate Zero were taken out by that one click. A good chunk of the man spam are down. There are still a good number of forces left, but that was a really, really good shot by Ralcom or Pennywise. I missed who dropped that assault. That's going to break this assault in the north as Futurama begins to break in the south. There it is. There is the GG, giving a point to Ralcom and Pennywise, bringing them in the lead. I will see you in match number 6, Commander. Welcome to the Harvest. This battle is brought to you by Tank Polishers Inc. Because if you're gonna lose, at least lose shiny. Over in the top left-hand corner, we have Ralcom sticking to his purple and Pennywise moving to his red. We do actually get a little bit of a mix-up because we have a Black Hand faction over by Ralcom. And it looks like we're getting some some Steel Talons by Pennywise. You get a little bit of pinging over here. It looks like the Confessor squads are going to start moving their way in, and over on the right-hand side, we have Futurama sticking to his cyan and Fate Zero sticking with his pink. It looks like we're going with Skrin and Steel Talons from Futurama and Fate Zero. Confessor Squad's going to move their way in and not manage to get a kill off, unfortunately, on his opponent. That is going to bite for him, and he's going to lose Confessor Squad after Confessor Squads to his opponents. Fate Zero looking like he won his engagements with the Scouts rather quickly as well. Item note to consider, it looks like... No, actually, there's 2 Tiberium spikes per player. I thought there were 3, and then one player grabs the one right there. We also have an EMP control center in the northern center of the map, and opposite of that, there is blue Tiberium in the south on the Harvest. Get our first buggy in this grand finals. I believe this is the only non-faction we have seen so far at all. I wonder why they did the switch. Maybe it was a misclick. Maybe it was intentional. Maybe he's trying to mix up his opponent. It's hard to know. I don't know what Ralcom's strategy is for a lot of these guys, but it's always nice to see him play. He does usually pull out some interesting maneuvers. Unfortunately, he keeps losing Confessor Squad after Confessor Squads. That's going to add up slowly over time. It's not going to cost him the game, but it is an item of note. Getting a really good scout over here with the buggy, managing to make their way all the way into his opponent's base, but the same can also be said for Fate Zero, putting a pillbox inside of Ralcom's base, doing the traditional GDI annoyance. Buggy's going to start picking on these harvesters. Not going to be able to do too much other than just be an absolute pest, because he might as well be throwing candy corn at that shell. We get some Secret Tanks moving into, it looks like Pennywise's base, but these Titans are going to push out the Secret Tanks just as quickly as they move in. And actually, I missed Raucom already setting up himself in the center of the map, followed very quickly by Pennywise over here with this War Factory. They're being rather aggressive, moving their way in, and it actually looks like the construction yard for Pennywise has moved his way all the way into Fate Zero's natural expansion. However, there are Titans to match these Titans. If he's not careful, he's going to end up in a rather precarious situation. Titan after Titan gets taken down. He'll probably go lose another one here. There it is. There it is. It decides to hit. Sorry, it doesn't decide. It gets taken down by the forces of Fate Zero. Laser Tower is going to start taking some pot shots on these Titans. However, they're going to move their way back behind their War Factory to gain some expansion. Pennywise is being very, very aggressive with all of these War Factories, moving his way in with his Titans, and low power mode hits the laser turrets. That's extremely important for Raucom. Those laser turrets are going to be very, very important in this engagement. I'm not sure if he powered them down intentionally or if he's actually in low power mode, but it doesn't matter. One of the laser turrets is going to get taken out, and the other one is going to come back online. It is at half HP. It is Titan versus Titan with base defenses mixed in on the south over here. I don't think we have time to check really too much else. The engagement over here in the south, it looks like it's pretty much an all-in over here by Pennywise. As he moves his way in, I don't know, he didn't sell off his MCV because there it is, but it is an all-in when it comes into the base defense. This could still go either way. However, it is looking in the favor of the right-hand faction. I say that after Devourer Tank starts to get taken down. This man spam over here by Raucom supporting Pennywise is going to be a lot to deal with. And we actually have some bikes moving in on Futurama's Harvesters over in the north. That's going to be extremely unfortunate. It looks like Raucom and Pennywise are just absolutely on top of it. They do not want to lose that $200 prize pool, and they are doing everything they can, pulling out all of the stops that they possibly can to take on their opponents, and that's going to be something they need to do because Futurama is a top player to deal with, is one of these harder players to deal with. Not that Pennywise and Raucom can't pull some rabbits out of their hats for sure, but Futurama, in my experience, tends to be a force to be reckoned with. Titans are continuing their assault, I should say, over here on the south. It looks like the Titans for Pennywise have done very, very good job. They haven't been taken out too many. I say that once again, as soon as one of them die, it just seems like these players just want to make me a liar in this particular match, and I didn't realize how many laser turrets are here. They're absolutely everywhere. However, Fate Zero keeps popping out silo after silo, blocking shots everywhere he can, and the most important thing to remember is that the center of the map is absolutely dominated by the left-hand side of the faction. More and more of these harvesters getting taken out over time. There goes another one by Futurama. Futurama's forces, Futurama's economy has got to be in shambles, losing harvester and infrastructure after infrastructure while their opponents are set up on their bases. They can basically continue this assault indefinitely. More and more laser turrets come out, and Futurama begins to move in with his Devourer Tank, trying to break what he can, but he just loses forces instead. This base rush is just proving to be so much to deal with, while these mobile Nod faction, while this mobile Black Hand faction continues its assault on the north, taking out more and more of Futurama's infrastructure and hurting his economy even more. They're going to start bleeding them dry slowly but surely. Pennywise keeping up the micro, keeping up the pressure, supported over here by Raucom as they continue this assault. Does look like a couple of Titans do get caught out in a rather precarious position, and there is the answer. There are these Devastator warships start dealing with the forces of their opponents. These rocket squads are not close enough to really start doing too much. However, even if they win this engagement, I say that there's the SAM turrets. I say that, but the center of the map is still controlled by their opponent, and to throw insult to injury, there are the flame tanks over here by the Black Hand faction, picking off what is left of Futurama's base in the north. There's not too much more they can do when you get a behemoth over here for the defense for Fate Zero. Futurama is not looking in a great spot. He does have a tripod in the north that's going to be able to do some damage, but that's really about it. Somehow the drone ship manages to make its way out in time. It doesn't get taken out by the flame tanks, but the flame tanks are not done. They're going to continue picking on infrastructure after infrastructure. Futurama has finally decided to move in and start a little bit of a push, but it's not going to be enough. He does not have the forces to break this siege. They were able to push their opponents out unless they did a mass fire sale that I missed. and a good chunk of this blue or this green Tiberium here in the center is taken out, is eaten by their opponents. The economy difference has got to be staggering over here. However, it's not like Futurama and Fate Zero can't turn this around, but they do have a steep hill to climb. Pennywise keeping up the assault, and Raldcom doing the sneaky tactics in the back does seem to be playing out rather well. And like I said, they still control this all-important center section of the map. It would have been nice to see these behemoths a little bit earlier on. They are starting to put on the pressure on their opponents, and that's very good. Fate Zero is moving his MCV into the center of the map. They need to start harvesting that Tiberium. They need to start moving their way in. That's going to be critical to winning this match, because it doesn't matter how good of a player you are. If you have no economy, you cannot fight your opponent. The Devastator Warship is going to provide some distraction so the drone ship can get away, and maybe if he's lucky, the Devastator Warship can make it out as well. He does have a couple of ranks on himself. These behemoths so far are just doing a crazy amount of damage, proving their weight in gold. But, you know, once again, like, we're going to run into massive economic issues for both factions. However, Raldcom and Pennywise have had a good chunk of time to soak up this Tiberium here in the center. And actually, I just noticed they've barely touched their natural expansion here at all, spending most of their time, it looks like, going for this center area. We actually have a Reclamator hub, or so Redeemer hub, producing a Redeemer here any moment. If they can get that off, that'd be super great. But it looks like Futurama notices it and is actually going to take it down, killing it before Raldcom can get that up. And strangely, it looks like they may have completely broken the siege. Pennywise is now moving into the southern area of their opponent's base, but it looks like they've been completely delodged from the center of the map. I'm unsure how they lost that advantage. Maybe those behemoths and Devourer warships just proving too much to deal with, and it looks like Futurama and Fate Zero are just so far becoming absolutely unstoppable in this fight. There's not much their opponents could do, and I believe Pennywise threw in the towel. There it is, followed quickly by Raldcom. I thought Raldcom and Pennywise had that in the bag, but somehow Futurama and Fate managed to hold on to that match and eke out a victory, tying up the score to 3-3, moving into match 7, which means match 7 will be our game-winning match. Whoever takes that round, takes that match, wins the series, wins the $200 prize pool. Let's get to it, Commander. Here it is, Commander, match 7. The final match in the grand finals of the July/August League. On the map, Tiberium Forest. Tiberium Forest is actually one of those maps I don't get to see too much, so I am unfamiliar with the build orders for it. Looks like maybe the crane is the standard for the left-hand side of the faction. No, is just the left-hand faction that's doing that. Speaking of, on the left-hand side, we have Raldcom and Pennywise playing the purple and playing the yellow, sticking with Reaper 17 and Skrin. Over on the right-hand side, we have Fate Zero and Futurama playing the pink and playing the cyan, sticking with Zocom and going with Skrin. This center part of the map looks like it's going to be critical to controlling this entire game. I'm curious to see what the point of this crane opener is. Is it just entirely to up your build order just ever so slightly, get that power plant out early on, maybe to get to the refinery going just a little bit quicker? Maybe that's the goal. That will remain to be seen here in a moment. Scouting is continued. Buzzer squads are able to grab a chunk of these riflemen as they move their way on to continue the scouting of their opponents. It's the minor harassment stage as of right now. Another quick item of note is this is probably one of those maps where you see like a drone ship going down here for both of these players, and both players using the build area off of that particular drone ship. And I think that's exactly what's going to happen. I wouldn't be surprised if we see Raldcom getting a harvester, and there it is, Raldcom getting an extractor or refinery out rather early. Looks like they're a little bit ahead of Futurama and Fate Zero. As Futurama moves his way to the south, they do not have a harvester yet, so Raldcom's going to be up a little bit on forces potentially. They were up on resources last game, but somehow the defense for Futurama and Fate Zero were able to turn that around, like I said previously, and just turn that game into an absolute steamroll. It'll remain to be seen whether or not they can do that, but this natural expansion is developing very, very nicely for their opponents. This is a little bit worrying. Looks like that Crane may have been the way to go. Maybe they just had that in their back pocket for the final match to mix up their opponent. We're actually getting a little bit of Lightning Spike doing some harassment on their opponents, doing some harassment on these Harvesters. It's only going to be able to do so much as these Secret Tanks move their way in and begin to eliminate it. I'm not sure they're going to be able to stop it whatsoever. Secret Tank might get to a little bit less than half HP, but I can't imagine much more than that. I don't even think it fully made it to half HP. That assault is all but over. Scouting continuing in the north, nothing major right now. We get a growth accelerator already out for their opponents, but it looks like the growth accelerators are already here for Ralcom and for Pennywise. Pennywise have a rather good foothold on their natural expansion, and it looks like just upping their build order just ever so slightly, maybe 1 or 2 buildings, might be enough to change this match around. Because they've had to have recovered what they've spent on those cranes, because the cranes sell for 750, so they've got to be already back up to those numbers, and the fact that they already have the infrastructure set up is probably going to make all the difference. Futurama is behind on refineries, it looks like, but he probably has a strategy in mind that I am unaware. But once again, they probably don't know about the cranes over on the left-hand side. And we're getting our first little bit of engagement over here in the southern section of the map over the blue Tiberium. Fate Zero is going to push Pennywise out. Pennywise losing a Devourer tank and just not able to fight the man spam and the armor of Fate Zero. Fate Zero coming in strong, supported over here by the Gunwalkers, by the Secret Tanks of Futurama. That's going to be good, grabbing that early on. Hopefully Futurama can get some early blue Tiberium. That'd be very nice. Actually, this assault's not over. These APCs are going to move forward and get absolutely obliterated. They're going to serve no purpose whatsoever. I'm not sure what the deal was. Maybe Fate Zero had to look away, but losing those APCs is going to hurt this fight early on. And here comes Ralcom. If they're not careful, they're going to lose these forces. Doesn't look like Fate Zero's going to have enough time to pull out. He's going to lose everything he submitted over here rather quickly. That's going to bite for the early game section as Futurama backs his way out and decides not to deal with that engagement. Ralcom is actually taking out Fate Zero's Harvesters over here in the south with a couple of Shock Troopers with a Lightning Spike. Looks like the sneaky tactics are not over for Ralcom. Ralcom proving how sneaky he could be with the Black Hand faction and continuing that with these Shock Troopers, actually getting more reinforcements over here. Moving their way in, going for the growth accelerator. Are they going to be able to take it out in time? These Gunwalkers are right next to them. Possibly not. No, unfortunately, between the Gunwalkers and the Buzzer squads, they just weren't able to do it. So all of those Shock Troopers, all of that sneakiness for Ralcom gets taken out. The forces for Fate Zero have developed back rather quite nicely. These Zone Shatterers can prove to be rather useful, and I think that is the answer. If they can just avoid getting one-clicked, if they can just avoid getting captured, if you can keep those Zone Shatterers up and going, I think that can make a big difference in this fight. Zone Shatterers, you know, as plenty of people know, are pretty good against their Scrin opponents. Ralcom going to take a couple of shots as he moves his way back into the center of the map. Looks like things are starting to favor the left-hand faction when it comes to control of the center. Ralcom is not done. He actually is doing some more harassment over here in the south. I'm not sure if he was able to find the same purchase he was last time. I think these Gunwalkers were here to stay, and that does appear to be the case. Futurama left those Gunwalkers just specifically do that. It looks like we actually get a little bit of a misclick by Futurama with his Harvester going for that blue Tiberium, unless its goal was to scout, but I feel like that is a rather expensive scout to send that direction. Secret Tank getting taken out rather quickly, or Predator Tank, I was unable to see which one it was. Either way, it is dead, so it does not matter. Looks like air superiority is going to be what Pennywise and Futurama are fighting over as they both begin to build up these air forces. However, this is also a lot of Shardwalkers to deal with their opponent's air forces. They still continue to move in, and these drone ships will still be a lot to deal with. Fate Zero is here to support his buddy, to support his ally Futurama. They're both looking in great position if they can just keep their opponents and they can start to move in slowly over time. And actually, Railcom loses a Harvester early on to these Zone Shatterer, or to these Zone Raiders, and may lose a second one over here. Those are some really good purchases. However, it looks like the Buzzer Squads take them out just as quickly. One Harvester manages to make it out alive, just barely. Losing all of those Zone Troopers has got to sting, though. Railcom setting up a good chunk of Buzzer Hives over on the natural expansion that everybody is going to be fighting over, and it looks like things are setting up, like I said before, for the left-hand faction to control a good chunk of that. Almost all of the blue Tiberium is gone. It looks like Pennywise has grabbed that and gobbled up everything that he can. If Fate Zero can gain some sort of foothold in the north, that will be extremely important. Railcom does put a ping off, letting his ally know that Fate Zero has set up his construction yard on his front lawn, and they're going to begin their siege. They're going to begin their engagement. I think what's going to be clear here is if these one-clicks can group a bunch of these units, and I don't think Fate Zero is spaced out enough. He needs to watch this. He needs to be very, very careful. He needs to line his troops and get a little bit of a better concave, and there it is. There is the one-click grabbing all of these Zone Shatterers and a good chunk of these forces, and I think that is going to be the linchpin into the forces into this engagement over here in the north, as Pennywise and Futurama also begin to fight in the south. But I think I think this fight in the north is all but lost. Yeah, Fate Zero lost a staggering number of forces for no gain. His troops were just too grouped up, unfortunately, and that one click just was phenomenal for the left-hand faction. I'm not sure if it was Pennywise or if it was Railcom's one click. Either way, it doesn't matter. There is another one click right over here, or possibly some grenades. Either way, these forces over here are EMP'd, so that's going to be a good chunk to deal with. And once again, here's this air superiority versus air superiority. Futurama is going mano-a-mano with Pennywise and his opponent's forces. He needs to get some good gains off because he's got to make up for Fate Zero, who lost all of his forces, lost all of his Shatterers over here. And if he's not careful, Fate Zero is going to lose his natural expansion. He's going to lose his build, his construction yard. Words are hard. Drone ship versus drone ship moving their way in, supported by Slingshot, supported by AA. Things are looking good, at the very least, for Futurama. If he can just find some sort of purchase, if he can find some sort of victory before Railcom completely wraps up everything in the north, because Fate Zero has all but crumbled. And I think the play here would be to force Futurama to split up his forces, because his forces are very, very powerful. All of these drone ships can do a lot of work. However, they can only do so much, and they can only be in so many places at once. We'll see if that coordination comes into play here any moment, I'm sure. Not that Fate Zero can't rebuild his forces, but he is all but out of this game. He's got to be hurting, and he doesn't have a lot of resources to rebuild. Their natural expansion has run dry, and they have not taken control over the center of the map. Railcom and Pennywise just proving to be very, very dominant in the center control. They haven't been able to break Futurama, but the same can be said for Futurama trying to break his opponents. They just haven't been able to make their way through. I believe he did move his drone ship. There is his drone platform, but he has not had time or resources to begin harvesting that. They're going to be hurting extremely, extremely bad. And here it is. It looks like Railcom has finally decided to move in on the north, move in on his opponent, move in on Fate Zero, and that could prove to be what breaks the camel's back. That could be the last straw that breaks the camel back. That is Futurama. Futurama has a lot riding on him. Futurama is really the linchpin to all of this. If he goes down, if he's not able to keep up all this, that is going to be game. Railcom moving its way in, as well as a couple of forces of Pennywise. And there's a good one click right there by Futurama as he managed to grab almost all of these tripods. That is very, very good for him. However, he's going to be pushed out of the center completely, and if he's not careful, he's actually going to lose that drone platform. And that there's only so much Futurama to go around. He is going to be able to get a whole bunch of these tripods. It's going to be super, super great for him, but can he keep it up? The forces for Pennywise are going to continue moving their way in time and time again, and there's just not too much left of Fate Zero over here, and they've got to be hurting on resources. Their natural expansion is all but dry, and they have nothing to harvest as of right now. Drone Ship does get taken out by from Futurama. That's going to be unfortunate for him as these tripods move their way in the north. So far, relatively uncontested. He's going to have such a hard time fighting this superior micro and macro between his two opponents. Fate Zero is all but out of this game. There's not much he can do. And there it is. There's the GG. Futurama throws in the towel, giving everything to Fate Zero. I don't think he thought that he could win this fight. Probably a wise call because they do not control the center of the map. They lost early on and just were never able to regain it. I won't be surprised if here in a minute Fate Zero also throws in the towel. Maybe he has not realized that Futurama's left. And there it is. There is the GG. There is the final opponent out of this match, giving the entire series to Rylcom and Pennywise, gaining them the $200 prize pool. What a series, Commander. Thank you for tuning in. I have been your host, Korek. Transmission out.